I've spent the last decade of my life optimizing health and performance, starting as a teenager in the gym to running Ironmans to even doing a 100-mile ultramarathon. And in this video, I'm gonna give you a raw, no bullshit talk on everything that I've learned. And if you pay attention, this video could save you years of the mistakes that I made. My journey started right around a 15-year-old mark, where in my community center, that's when they first allowed you to go into the gym. And I was always the skinny kid in high school that didn't have a lot of muscle, kind of got picked on. So naturally I was insecure. First thing I wanted to do was put on size and just get as big as possible. So from 15 to 17, there was just a lot of Arnold Schwarzenegger split, push-pull legs, just get in the gym, hit as many weights as possible, and then eat as much food as possible. But quickly realized that that wasn't the way to really grow, even though it was working because I was just going through a massive puberty spurt and it was helping that I just ate a lot of food and touched weights. And naturally, I noticed that in the lacrosse training sessions, when we would go to the gym, I was always the kid that could week over week get stronger and push more and more weights. So I was in the gym with everybody and I was good at lifting weights, but I was really bad at lacrosse. So naturally, what I did was I just honed in on lifting more and more weights. And then before I knew it, I was 18 years old and I was benching more than 315 and I was squatting 500s and I was deadlifting high 500s. So I entered into my first powerlifting competition, and from there I did a couple more, I broke some records, and then just at the end of my 18-year-old mark, I ranked first in the country for powerlifting, and I also broke 4 records. And this was the start of my entire fitness journey. I was 3 years into it, I had felt my first taste of victory, and right around the same time I got into university, and I really thought I was gonna be a powerlifter for the rest of my life. But lo and behold, right around that same time we had COVID and university completely shut down. The gyms were all shut down as well. The only thing that I could do was run on the road, bike on the road, and swim in the water. So my competitive nature took over and I started doing Ironmans. So first thing, just jumped right in and I did a full Ironman. I signed up for the Ironman Canada with quite literally 9 months of a heads up. And then I just started running, I started biking, I started swimming. I still don't know how to swim. And that was really where I started to optimize for more performance because I got one of these, a Garmin. And this is where a lot of my data came in. I started to see that my sleep was shit. My HRV was really bad. My heart rate was high because I was chronically unhealthy because of the powerlifting lifestyle of eating junk food, sleeping poorly, trying to bulk, just all sorts of health issues that come up when you're trying to be a very, very bulky powerlifter without the right precautions for your health. And right around the same time that I was doing the Ironman, I also happened to get my real estate license right out of university because I dropped out. And this is where my entrepreneurial journey really started to pick up. I was doing Ironmans and I was trying to become a successful realtor, but as a result, my health started to fall off. I had all this data, I just didn't know what to do with it. And this is where things started to really take a major shift. So I hit my rock bottom when I was about 50K in debt from real estate, and I decided that I need to really make a change. So doing the Ironman, I really built that confidence within myself. And then I started to actually be able to put my fitness focus and the discipline and the perseverance that I took from that into my entrepreneurial ventures. And that's where I started to learn about more of the online space and marketing and sales and psychology. And from there, that first year of real estate, I think I made my first 6 figures. I did about 130 in GCI, in commissions. So that's where I started to learn that you can be a high performer in fitness and be a successful entrepreneur. And what really reaffirmed this belief for me was when I finished my 100-mile ultramarathon. And in that same 6-month period, I bench pressed 405 pounds. So for me, these 2 fitness feats were incredible. I have always dreamed of benching 405 ever since I was a 15-year-old kid getting into the gym. But what was also really cool is that I ran 100 miles, it was like 163 kilometers. And I just thought to myself, if I can do this, what can't I do? And in that same year, I actually ended up scaling my company, Optimability, where we help founders and entrepreneurs optimize their health and performance to 7 figures. And so I found a pattern that the more hard shit and the more cool things that I can do with my health and fitness, those skills and traits transfer over into my business, and that business grows as a result. And just to get a timeline of everything, right around December 2019, that's when I broke the powerlifting records. March 2020, ranked first in Canada. August 8th, I completed Grit Day, which was a 2-kilometer swim, half marathon run, 100-kilometer bike, 10-kilometer row, 10-minute plank, 500 push-ups and squats, 250 pull-ups. And this was insane. This took me the entire day. It was absolutely fucking brutal, but it's what really affirmed that I can do hard shit. And exactly 1 year later, I did my first Ironman. And then a year after that, in April of 23, I ran a marathon every week for 4 consecutive weeks. And then that following month, I did an Ironman 70.3. And then I climbed the Everest elevation of 8,800 meters in 12 and a half hours by doing repeats of a local hill. And then I ran 50 kilometers in the mountains. And then I trained for a 100-mile ultra. I finished a 100-mile ultra, benched a 405. And now I'm actually training for a 5-minute mile at 185 pounds, which ideally I want to be around that 16% body fat while chasing a 3-4-5 squat, bench, deadlift. And if you know what that is, then you know that's pretty freaking ridiculous and a pretty high level of fitness. So what are some things that I wish I knew when I started? I guess I would say the biggest thing is that it's really not a sprint. You are going to want the gains. You're going to want the quick success, the victories wherever you can. You want the PR. But I'm still 23 years old. I know I have a long career ahead of me with my fitness, and it's really just about taking it step by step and just building the foundation, laying the bricks first before you go and chase that humongous feat. You need that big runway to accelerate into the big goal that you're after. So just kind of try to be patient with your goal, because you will get there if you just keep after it every single day and stay consistent, but you definitely won't get after it if you think you can solve it in a matter of weeks or even months, depending on what it is. Some of the biggest limiting beliefs I had they had to do with my identity. I always identified myself as a powerlifter or just the guy that lifts heavy weights, but you have so much potential built inside of you. You should never limit yourself to just one thing or one identity. You're multifaceted in so many different ways. You can go run a marathon. You can go and lift a heavy weight. You can do an Ironman. You can do a multidisciplinary sport. It doesn't matter if you've only done one thing your whole life. You can always pivot and you can always adjust. And I think that's what took me forever to figure out. And until I had that spark, that catalyst, which was COVID, I didn't figure out that I could run Ironmans and ultramarathons and do all this other cool shit with my body and health. So breaking those limiting beliefs is really what's going to help you get to that next level. Now, kind of transitioning into the business piece, the reason I see most people fail when they're chasing a big goal and trying to scale their business is because they treat it like two separate things when you have to bring it all into one place. So you treat your business like your health and your health like your business. For example, when I was starting Optimability, I wasn't treating my health like my business. So I wasn't tracking my data. I wasn't seeing how I would respond week over week. I wasn't seeing the inputs. And as a result, I was having subpar outputs. Whereas in the business, I was running ads, for example. I was focusing on my cost per lead, my opt-ins, my close rate, all these things that would really help me accelerate the growth of my business, but I wasn't putting that same attention into my health. And then when I put it into my health, I did accomplish things like the Ironmans and the Ultramarathon and all just this crazy stuff that I didn't think I would ever accomplish, or at least 15, 16-year-old Martin never thought was possible. And until you start treating your health like your business and vice versa, you're always gonna see it as just one thing on its own. But in reality, it's all interwoven together. You have health, wealth, and relationships, and you can do all three and grow simultaneously. And I understand that some people watching might be thinking, oh no, you have to just sprint on one and neglect the others, but this is how I've done it for myself. I've accomplished great health. I've scaled an amazing company. I have an amazing girlfriend. I have really loving friends. I love my family. And it's all because I'm putting consistent daily inputs into every bucket and treating it all together instead of individuals. And I think the biggest bottleneck for me to solve this was literally just burning out. I hate to say that, but you will go through enough burnouts before you realize that it's time to actually take action. And for me, I always was like, I'll get to my health later. Later never really came until that burnout happened so bad that I was in such a rut. And that's what really was the spark and the fire under me that got me to take the next step. So if you are someone watching this and you've been burnt out so many times, then I encourage you to click the link in the bio, check out what we do here at Optimability, see if you'd maybe be a fit for some of our in-home systems or our performance coaching and concierge. And even if you just want some data or just want us to look at, give you a deep dive and then just hand you the keys to a fully optimized routine, we do have some one-time things as well that we offer. So if that sounds like you and you enjoy being a high performance founder, but you still want to scale, click the link in the bio and let me show you exactly how we can get it done for you.